What an interesting world we live in. As we wake up on a Tuesday morning, we see the country as ground to a halt. It's very curious, isn't it? Those who believe they deserve more money as others don't deserve any more at all. It's very interesting that the train unions have decided to stop the country. It's interesting that there are no staff at airports, so people are getting to holidays without bags and getting back and having to wait 3 hours to be told there are no bags and therefore have to be inconvenienced. So after 2 years of lockdown, we're still technically in lockdown because we can't afford to drive our cars, which cost £100 a tank. We can't go anywhere on the train because they're not running. And should we be lucky enough to go on holiday, you won't get your bag once you end up in Benidorm. And then we look a little deeper. Today, a friend of mine's sister is meant to have chemo. She couldn't get to the hospital because the trains aren't running. And then when she did get to the hospital, she had to wait several hours because half the staff couldn't get to the hospital. On a personal level, my auntie fell this morning just after 8 o'clock, and this is just after midday, and she's still on the floor. No ambulance because she has a carer and they couldn't give two fucks. We're living in a state of chaos, and this is what they love. As they're trying in America to get babies to be jabbed over an illness that we thought had gone away, we believed because the laws ended, and indeed all the restrictions ended, and we found out that it was nothing more than a bad cold, that this was the end of it. And then they bring monkeypox. We can't say that because it's racist. And then today we find out that Gary Lineker believes, because he has slightly tanned skin, that he's a victim of racism too. This on a day that we find out in San Francisco, they're no longer going to release mugshots of people because it creates racism, because there's too many people of color who are taken into custody and have their mugshot taken, which is then public domain through press releases of the police. That comes after a weekend of more disgusting violence in London, where 5 people were shot, one young man underage stabbed to death. It's just not going very well, is it? And they want to tell us we need to worry about saving the planet. I worry about this country because we've gone through 2 years of hell, and it seems the hell is only beginning. The inflation at 11%, which is probably more like 15%, can't be solved by giving people more money. That's how we're in this mess in the first place. We gave people too much money. We signed blank checks to people, especially in the arts, to save Shakespeare companies and things like that, which were of no relevance to the value of this country in terms of its economic strength. Manufacturing's on its arse, but we're still able to put on shows for one-legged lesbians in Swindon because they got £1 million during lockdown. Doesn't quite make sense, does it? I see nothing to be happy about in these strikes today. In fact, I would ban strikes and ban unions if I had my way, because this is not the time. I believe they're not reading the room. I'm more concerned that a little old lady is currently sat on the floor in her bedroom, having fallen 4 hours ago, and there's no ambulance here to pick her up. Oh, and we must remember, of course, today is another day where we see more insight into the covering up of grooming gangs, that thing we don't talk about here because it causes too much hurt feelings for people who want to affect our children. I do a full report on that today at alexbelfield.com. But lest we forget, at a time we're trying to silence people like Tommy, who's trying to protect children, more government agencies confirm they were completely inept in protecting children, and indeed were part of the problem, not the solution, in avoiding rape of children by grooming gangs in our country, which still goes on today. I sometimes wonder whether little Doddie's got it right. She sits here all day, doesn't watch the news, and plays with her balls. It sounds like a dream life to me. When we see what's going on with the lack of transport, the resurgence of COVID despite there being no testing, and the fear constantly of things like monkey AIDS, I suppose we have to wonder, what are they going to throw at us next to put us under more brainwashing manipulation, to put us under more fear, which of course is the best way to control a nation. Whilst we're looking this way, they're up to shenanigans, don't you worry about that. And we continue to expose people today, like a man called Streeting, an MP for Labour, who has some very interesting tweets. We do a full expose at alexbelfield.com. That's where we have 9 videos today, a 10-minute news. We, at the time of our lives, just talking about stories that they don't want us to cover here because it makes people feel awkward and hurts their feelings. I intend to continue to hurt people's feelings by exposing the truth. the whole truth and nothing but the truth. All right, we'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'll continue to see whether an ambulance does turn up to get my auntie off the floor, or whether a lady with MS is treated by the NHS with complete contempt and will have to remain there until next Tuesday. Who knows? I suppose they have better priorities. Maybe they're going to go on strike. Maybe they need a pay rise. Maybe if they were given a pay rise, they'd be able to turn up on time, which is sort of in the promise of performance by the National Health Service. Can we privatise it, please? Pay these people properly and then get a service that's actually adequate in 2022. All right, here we go.
Blah, 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 blah.
A is for Alex.
Did you hear that? That was the voice of fucking reason, wasn't it?
Guardian readers, ambivalentious types, and champagne sippers, switch off now. Alex Belfield's voice of reason.